walk into the store with a gleam in my eye. Books stacked so high they reach for the sky. Classics and mysteries, oh what a delight. History whispers in the dead of night. A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn. Every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me. Piles so tall, they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. This is my second of 3 different book haul videos. They are kind of themed just to make for easier perusal and also so that way I can put them in their different playlists a little bit more easily. So this one, I'm kind of considering like my nonfiction / history one. It's got a little bit of a hodgepodge of different things in there. So I'm going to jump right into it. Let's see. I think I got this one as a free Thrift Books credit. And this is one that I've been intending to read for a while. And I was kind of excited that I was able to just get it for like the $1 shipping. And it's Oliver Sacks' Musicphilia. I've read thus far his The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which I really enjoyed. And I have his book on migraines, which I need to revisit, maybe with annotating, because I just couldn't get it to sink in. Now, to be fair, I was, while trying to read it, waiting to see my neurosurgeon before my setting up, getting the ball rolling for, I want to say, my second spinal surgery. So I maybe wasn't in the best brain space to be reading about migraines. I had gotten the book because after my first spinal surgery, the already developing migraines just like jumped to a whole another stratosphere. And I realized I knew up to nothing about migraines and I wanted to research it. And my migraine doctor actually has nothing but good things to say about Oliver Sacks, even though a lot of his work, I'm sure that further studies have built upon his work because he's been gone at least for a good little while. So science is always moving. But I'm not sure we know that much more about migraines than we used to. The impression I got from my migraine doctor is that with the nervous system, we're just always still kind of feeling our way around. That's why just within the past year or so, I've been on 2 different medications that are considered like to be like at the highest level that we have available this time for migraines. First, I had the injection, then I moved to the pill, and we've talked about the IV medication for migraines as well, which is at this point, that is the ceiling from what I understand for migraine treatment. But Oliver Sacks is considered, one of those top people, or when he was still alive, he's considered one of the top people in neurology. But Musicphilia, I had read excerpts. I haven't actually read the full thing, so I'm really looking forward to this. This is another one that seems to be very much based on different case studies, much in the way that The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat was. So I expect that it'll be just as enjoyable experience as the other book was. Then the next one, let me see, I want to put this somewhere where it'll be out of my way. Oh, I'm trying not to hurt my other books. And I'm also trying to do these kind of thematically. So then will come, I guess I'll call these the presidential ones. Yeah, the presidential ones. Although maybe military leaders / presidential ones, because I don't know where else to put this other one otherwise. Yeah. I'll just throw this one in here too. Okay, first the one that doesn't really fit with the others that I'm about to show. I think this was another one I got this one for a really good price on eBay. That's what it was. Someone mentioned this on Bookstagram, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I generally like nurse-related memoirs. Like there was one about this, I want to say it was like like almost like the Fair Isles, that general area of the world. And it's called Nurse Come Ye Here, and there's another one that's second to that one. And it's very much about being in this area of the world, away from everything else, being like the only nurse on this island and her experiences with that. And then this one is District Nurse, My Life as a Nurse in the 1950s, which just sounds like it'll be quite interesting. It's dealing with Patricia Jordan's nursing career. She was born in Belfast, and she ends up going to nursing school in London, and talks about her going first by bicycle, then by car to her patients. But I don't know if this was the era where nurses weren't supposed to be married. They would live in dormitories, and you weren't even supposed to date or anything. It was like it was very strict for a certain period of time. Not sure if this was the era. I can't remember. It's one of those things like you kind of imbibe all these different sources, so sometimes it's hard to remember what the original source was. I want to say it was probably a documentary I watched. But yeah, about there being the dormitories and some of the strict rules that nurses had to live under. But like I said, I don't know if that was this era. Then the next one, or next few, I'm going to do Kitchener first. And I mentioned last time that I had started a Kindle book called Kitchener. I want to say it was something about imperialist. There were several really highly recommended Kitchener biographies. It was the Kindle one, which I had started, and I just was like, well, I'll soft DNF it. I'll come back to it later. I just have too many things going right now. I shouldn't have started it right then to begin with. This one is Kitchener, Hero and Anti-Hero, and this was very highly rated. I went and I looked up best rated Kitchener biographies. And most of my knowledge of Kitchener has honestly been his connection with what is called the Kitchener stitch in knitting. Or Kitchener technique in knitting. And it's a way to close off like the toes of socks. That's actually how it got named, was, I guess, when they were looking for socks to be made for the soldiers. And Kitchener was like really at the forefront of like encouraging people to make socks for the soldiers. When they released a pattern for that, it had this special toe on it, and that sock was called the Kitchener sock. And I guess the technique for closing the toe from that point became known as the Kitchener toe. So it's actually my preferred method of doing a sock. I like a nice cuff down, do a gusset, heel flap, or do a heel flap, heel turn, gusset, knit the foot, and then close off the Kitchener toe. And so that was actually my introduction to Kitchener. Now, apparently there's some controversy about him during his career. I've enjoyed what I have learned about him thus far early in his career. How he, when he was in like the Jordan area, dealt a lot with mapping, and there were archaeological finds that he would have been involved with as well. And he was as excited about that as anybody. It was apparently a passion of his, which I thought was interesting. But like I said, I stopped that particular biography just because I had too many things going, and I really shouldn't have started it at that point to begin with, when I had other things I wanted to finish before the end of the year. But so I might end up starting this one before I continue that other biography. Then more in the way of American history. This one got recommended, and I forget who recommended it on the Historathon Discord, but they said that this was a very good Lincoln biography. Again, got it used. Lincoln by David Herbert Donald. I guess he won a Pulitzer Prize. I do get a name in here, so yay, I always like getting a name in the book. This is Roy Rudiger or something like that, who had the book prior to this. And it's a nice size book. Not quite sure when I'll start it, but like I said, it was really highly recommended on the Historathon Discord. Now, these two are kind of related. Every once in a while, I will borrow a book from either Hoopla or more likely from Libby, and I'll finish it, and then I will continually think about the book afterwards and be like, man, I really enjoyed that book. I find that I keep coming back to it in my mind. I wish I had that book. And I've had that happen for a couple books. The first one was The Golden Age of Murder, and I did a flashback review on that a couple videos back. And the other one was John Adams Under Fire by Dan Abrams. And I can't tell you the number of times I've managed to slide stuff in about this book into random conversations, just because it really stuck with me. And it was what kind of made me really like John Adams to begin with. And it's the Founding Fathers' fight for justice in the Boston Massacre murder trial. And his job that he willingly took on was to be the defending attorney for the British soldiers in the Boston Massacre. And he got a lot of flack for it, but he was like, if we don't set up a fair trial, a law system by which people are going to be tried at the beginning of this country, then we are setting the precedent for the future. So let's start things off right now. And he got flack from people like Samuel Adams and several other people. I came away really not liking Samuel Adams in this book. But yes, I thought that John Adams showed great moral fiber. I thought that he did the hard thing, not the popular thing. And that, he showed his caliber. And I thought he showed a lot of foresight as well. So couldn't stop thinking about this book. I can't remember if I ended up being able to use a free books credit or if I just got it really cheaply on thrift books. But I knew I had to get this. Along the same vein is another thrift books, and I can't remember again if I got it really cheaply on thrift books or if this was another one that was a free books credit. But this is Dan Abrams and David Fisher. Oh, both of these are Dan Abrams and David Fisher. Lincoln's Last Trial, the murder case that propelled him to the presidency. And this just sounds really interesting as well. I already have my library sticker here, so I don't need to go and search out the Dewey Decimal Code. And This just looks like it'll be awesome. Oh, I like the inside of that. That's a nice interior. Oh, I didn't realize the John Adams one had a similar idea. Oh, that's cool. Just want to see if I had any library cards, and I didn't. But this one I have not yet read, but just the topic sounds interesting. And I'll probably read this before I read the big old Lincoln biography, just as kind of like whet my appetite. Just like I read this before I'm going to read David McCullough's John Adams biography. So it sort of seems appropriate somehow that Dan Abrams is really going to sort of prepare the way for the bigger biography for both of these men. But if this is even close to being as good as the John Adams one, I anticipate that this will be a favorite. And I'll probably want to reread this as much as I want to reread this one. Then next is, let's see. I think I'll do these first. Hold on. So my next three are Thomas Sowell books. The first one is Marxism, Philosophy, and Economics. And I guess what he does here is he explains, where does he say? I want to say that what his goal was here was to give an idea of Marxist beliefs. Here we go. First published in 1985, Thomas Sowell's book is a crisp, lucid, and commonsensical. Is commonsensical even a word? Anyway, introduction to Marx's own writings and to Marxist theory. It combines readability with intellectual rigor, which is about what you expect for Thomas Sowell, and distills more than a quarter of a century of Thomas Sowell's research and thought on the philosophical and economic doctrines of Karl Marx. Its central theme is that Marxian philosophy must be understood before Marxian economics can be defined. The book discusses Marx's ideas, including his philosophy of history, concept of capitalist exploitation, morality, and business cycle theory. The author's treatment is balanced, though often critical, and displays a mastery of Marx's own writings, which are liberally extracted throughout the text. And a couple of comments from different reviewers. One says, among the best short accounts of Marxism ever, whatever the reader's own politics are. I found it a real pleasure to read, clear and tight, full of both common sense and intellectual rigor. And then other commentators said, very readable, the non-Marxist Mr. Sowell is distinctly successful in opening up the scope and brilliance of Marx's very interesting mind. So these are people who might not actually agree with Sowell on his own personal opinion on Marx, but they feel like he represented Marx's beliefs well. You know, he didn't set up a straw man, essentially. Then the next one, I liked the title, to be quite honest with you, is Reality Optional and Other Essays by Thomas Sowell. And this is like in his list. I think a lot of these essays, these X and other essays tend to be like controversial. Like the one I'm reading now is his Controversial Essays. That's actually the title of the book. But this one has topics such as, is reality optional, families under siege, apologizing for civilization, being with it. Let's see. Goes on, rich and poor stats, Nobel Prize in economics. I'm just hitting basics because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot. And what I like about his essays is they tend to be short. So what I can do, like I'm doing with the controversial essays, is I can just read a little bit a day. I don't need to read the whole book in one sitting. I can just be like, oh yeah, I can do one essay here, one essay there, and before I know it, bam, I made it through a book, which is nice, especially since I tend to read a lot of thick books. So it's nice to get little bite-sized pieces of things that I can really sit and dwell on, because he doesn't cover just, I don't know, dumb topics, or not, that's not the way I want to say it. He doesn't cover meaningless topics. He covers topics with some import in our world, in our society, in our everyday lives. So to be able to sit and chew on a little bit of different essays over a period of time is kind of nice. And that could be whether or not I end up agreeing with whatever his takeaway is. As always, I reserve the right to argue with my author that I'm reading in the text. I'll write all over it. Then the other one that I have of his, last of his, I think that I have for a little while at least, is Ever Wonder Why and Other Controversial Essays. So another one of his essay collections. But they're different than the other essays that I have. So this one touches more on, got something on education. Well, he tends to cover the same, like, he might cover the same subset of topics, but he'll go and he'll break off into different areas within those topics. So we might have things about race, but let's go and talk about these other aspects within race. Or, oh, we're talking about education, but let's touch on these different parts of education, or healthcare, or economics, or whatever the case may be. No book has the same essays in it, and it's not just rehashing things, but you might have the same overarching topic, but just like I said, subsets of that. So, okay, I just have to admit intrigue for the one on political issues, where you have one essay called Spoiled Brat Politics and the next essay called Spoiled Brat Politics Part 2. I am really interested in what that is. Then we have Us or Them, One-Uppers versus Survival, Equality Dogma, Inequality Dogma, Hiroshima. Okay, we're not shying away from stuff here. Oh, well, here's another fun. High Cost of Busybodies. High Cost of Busybodies Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. But, I mean, again, he's not shying away from things. He's talking about abortion. He's talking about talkers versus doers, mealy mouth media, stuff about college and school performance, teaching to the test. That's three different essays on that one. Artificial stupidity, sign of the times, suspicious stats. So, yeah, stuff about IQ. So, like I said, same, wide topics, but different narrow focuses within those topics. So look forward to that one as well. Now, my final set within this particular book haul is, this is a topic I've expressed interest in before. I've mentioned in the past that, I believe I mentioned in the past that I wrote a pretty big report in high school on Pope Pius XII, who was the Pope during World War II. I believe I mentioned this when I read The Scarlet and the Black about Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty. And Pope Pius XII has gotten, a bad rap over the years as maybe not doing enough, or, not speaking out enough, various different points of view on the way he dealt with a very challenging time period in world history, to put it very mildly. But I wrote this report, and at the time, I made sure that I had a book that was very antagonistic against him, which I believe was just called Hitler's Pope. I had one that I thought might be more middle road, and then I had one that was very pro Pope Pius XII. I must have borrowed these books from the library because I cannot find them in my book collection, and I know I would not have gotten rid of them. So I've been looking through, and I was going to just pick up like a couple of the ones that I remember reading in the past. I ended up picking up new ones. I actually think that none of these are the ones that I used at the time, except maybe this one. Okay, so this is The Myth of Hitler's Pope. Let's see when this was released, because it would have had to been before 2005 for me to have used it, because I got into college in 2005, so this was for a high school report. Okay, this was not the book I used because this was a 2005 book. So unless it was a senior year project, which I don't think it was for high school, so it wouldn't have been this book. So I haven't read this one yet. Myth of Hitler's Pope by Rabbi David G. Dallin. And it's one of the things in the back says, David Dallin's search for the truth about Pope Pius XII led him to the discovery that the tragedy of the Jewish people has been shamelessly exploited by foes of traditional religion. With righteous indignation, Dallin, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, I'm so sorry, sets the record straight, documenting the dishonesty of Pius's leading attackers and demonstrating that the wartime Pope was a friend and protector of the Jewish people in their time of greatest need. And that's a learned handed professor of law at Harvard University. Someone says it might be controversial. I've heard that it's stunning. So I look forward to reading this one. This is probably the shortest of the books that I picked up. Then next, like I said, I don't think none of these were the ones that I read, because this one is a fairly new release. All of these I got used. Now this one's put out by Ignatius Press, which is a Catholic press. So I expect some natural bias coming with that. And this was written by Michael Hessman, and it sounds like it says Pope Pius XII and the Vatican Secret Archives. So I guess new archival information has come available fairly recently. This book was released in 2022, so this is a very recent book in comparison to the 2005 one. So it'll be pulling upon information that I didn't have available to me at the time that I wrote the report in high school. So I look forward to this one. And they said, one person says that dramatically illuminating book should finally put to rest the calumnies against Pius XII, whose actions saved more Jews during the Holocaust than any other single individual. Vatican archives are open and being confirmed what both Jews and Catholics knew before the 1960s. Pius XII was a hero, not a villain, as propagandists portrayed him. The evidence in this book is his long-awaited vindication, a clear response to half a century of calumny. So, like I said, I do go into this knowing that this is going to be a biased account. Now, it doesn't mean that it is an inaccurate account. It just means that I have to keep in mind this is being put out by a Catholic press, and so it's coming from that point of view. And I say this as a Catholic. But they also would have had perhaps easier access to the Vatican archives. So there's that as well. And I don't know when that got opened up. Maybe there was like a certain period of time where it's like, we're keeping this sealed. I don't know. Maybe there had to be certain people who passed away before they unsealed it. I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Then the last one was one that I found when I was doing research on good books on Pope Pius XII. And this one, most of the books on him focus just on his time in World War II. This one is much more than that. So it's called Soldier of Christ, The Life of Pope Pius XII. This is by Robert A. Ventresca. And Someone says here, a beautifully written biography that will become the standard account of Pope Pius XII's life. In Ventresca's hands, this enigmatic pope is neither lionized nor demonized. Instead, we see Pius XII as a soldier mired in the trenches, neither advancing nor wholly retreating into silence, which is why I wanted this book, because it's not a hagiography. I don't foresee much in the way of bias, which is, good, because I do know my other two sources are, one's based in Judaism and the other one is based in Catholicism. Now, to be fair to both of those sources, the Vatican archives, fairly recently made available, were used by the more recent Catholic source, and then the Jewish source should definitely have the ability to speak about what is their history. And if anyone has something to say about it, I do expect them to have a lot to say and be very vocal about what they feel, about what was or was not the Vatican's role in helping them during that era. So, but more of the information on the back. In death, much more so than in life, Pius XII has become an intensely polarizing figure. To some, he is a venerable saint, and to others, he is a damnable silent witness to unimaginable atrocities in the heart of Europe. The incessant partisanship of the so-called Pious War has I just see what they did there. Anyway, so-called Pious War has consistently sacrificed historical interpretation for polemical and political purposes. We have become accustomed to reading interpretive leaps, which are grounded in counterfactual or normative claims about what the Pope could have or should have done, rather than a reasoned assessment of what he did or did not do, and why. This is to say nothing of the fact that, as understandable as it is, such a heavy focus on Pius XII's wartime record has obscured our view of the entire span of his active life in the service of the papacy. It is easy to forget that Pacelli's pontificate lasted for 13 years after the end of World War II. We know comparatively little about the Cold War years, and even less about Pius XII's prodigious teachings, which sought to address internal and external realities of Catholicism in rapidly changing times. However we might assess it, there can be no doubt that Eugenio Pacelli's pontificate left an indelible mark on the papacy and influenced the Catholic encounter with the modern world in ways we have scarcely begun to understand. So, I look forward to this book as providing a perspective that I've never heard about Pope Pius XII, because they're right. We don't ever hear about him outside of World War II. It's always, did he do enough or did he not do enough? Did he basically help Nazis, or did he go above and beyond for helping the Jews? Those are the conversations that get had, but we hear nothing about him in communism or anything like that. So that's I didn't even know that he had his papacy last so much longer past World War II, because no one really talks about it. So this will be a very interesting book because of that. I still might read the other two first and lead into this one, because I kind of feel like I want to save the more nuanced view last. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. I think I'll do the rabbi one first, though, because that's the shortest one. Anyway, that's all for, just checking the time, that's all for this particular book haul, for at least the second of three videos for the book haul. Don't know, did any of these books particularly catch your attention? Do you have any books that you borrow from the library and then you just can't stop thinking about it, and you just man, I just need to pick it up so I own it and can just read it over and over and over again? So yeah, if you can think of any of those kind of books, let me know in the comments. And thank you very much for joining me for this particular book haul video. I will see you during the next one. God bless. Bye.
second-hand aisles, oh how they call. Paperbacks line my bedroom wall, hardcovers with stories brawny and tall. Book halls keep me enthralled. Shakespeare's sonnets make my heart sing, epic tales of knights in a ring, Fitzgerald's dreams and Hemingway's might make every lonely night feel bright. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.